All right. Good morning, everyone. Bright and early on a Sunday morning. How's everybody feeling?
I'm feeling pretty good, Sean. I'll tell you, I spent most of this weekend looking at some of our social media feeds, and it seems that a lot of our teams are getting back out there. Took a holiday break and saw a lot of first practices and saw a lot of kids on trails and a lot of smiling faces. So it's a good vibe here early in the season.
That's nice. We haven't gotten started yet here in Western North Carolina and Lenore. I know a couple of Western North Carolina teams are starting to get started. It's it's so weird trying to do the timing. We had I rode in shorts last weekend and was like, man, we could have had practice today. And then it turned around and was like dropping down into the teens. And so it's always, it's always dicey. And I just don't like being cold during practice.
Absolutely the same out here, right? Am I bringing the flannel? Am I bringing the short sleeve jersey? I'd bring both. You just never know.
Exactly. Shell, how are
Um,
you doing?
I was working out a lot of grit race weekend plans over kind of Christmas time while I was at my brother's house. And I realized that I had all this stress during preseason where I was like, okay, we got to start preseason. We have all these big shifts happening in our league and all these new things to adjust to. Just a lot of big changes. And then we got through preseason and it was so much fun that when I sat down and I was looking at race season stuff, and it's a lot. It's like well over double what we've ever done before. And I was really like, oh, how am I going to pull this off? And just in the support we had at preseason and how awesome everyone was and how well it went. And just all these changes kind of settling in and really making a positive difference that I'm looking at this race season stuff and I'm like, oh, this is going to be awesome. So I was like getting really excited and thinking about like Teen Trail Core plans and starting to like really dig into plans for adventure next season. It's been a really exciting couple weeks.
That's cool. Well, I think this transition time from preseason to practice season to oh wow it's getting ready to be race season kind of thing is weird for all of us because we wear so many different hats, and so there's just lots to think about. But we know we're a little late in this podcast. We decided not to release and try and tape on New Year's Eve, New Year's Day, and give ourselves a little bit of a holiday break. Thank you, Brian, for making that suggestion because I would have been like, okay, it's New Year's Eve. Like, what time is going to be a good time for us to record the podcast? But we we're a little late, and so that means that it's a little more important for some of the information that we have because we do have some deadlines coming up in January, and the main one is January 22nd. We do have the deadline for student athlete registration. January 22nd is the last date for student athletes to register with a team and the league. That's important for you to be aware of, especially since it is earlier by about a week than it was last year. And that is because we are racing earlier this season as well. And that's also the date that is the deadline for submitting petitions for exception for category placement, with the caveat that it's the deadline for that for a student athlete to get a custom number plate that's correct with their name for their correct category. We will continue to take petitions for exceptions after that date. They just will not be getting a custom number plate. Is there anything that I'm forgetting, Brian, on that?
No, I think you covered the main points of registration deadline. Just 817 registered student athletes as I'm looking at PitSim this month.
Wow.
So yeah,
Nice.
the numbers are up there, and we might crest 900 by the time we're done.
That's pretty cool. We're growing continually, so that's awesome. And to go along with that, another kind of information about registration. So race registration for all races will open up on February 1st. There is no need for everybody to go in at 7 a.m. on February 1st and try and grab everything and crash the system like we were seeing last year. The race registrations, there are no caps. So everyone who wants to race will be accommodated in racing. And the way it's going to work is all the race registrations are going to open up on February 1st. And then each individual race's registration will close the Monday prior to race weekend. And so that makes it where it gives plenty of time, we feel like, for anyone who's interested in racing to race and to get registered. And it also requires a little bit of kind of patience with us as we figure out field sizes and figure out what the race schedules are going to be, especially with those middle school boys and the freshman JV1 boys. Those tend to be our categories that burst at the seams. And we are going to have to really work to figure out the best ways to accommodate all the riders that register for those races to make sure that everyone stays safe, but also has a fun time in racing. Think about, there will be a little bit of a dynamic shift. So that race schedule that comes out on race flyers, you know, a week or so in advance, that is subject to change and may change. And we will have a finalized kind of schedule once we see what the total registrations are and we put our heads together and figure out the best way to accommodate the number of riders that we have registered for the race. So it'll be kind of that race weekend that we may have some shifts and some differences in things that are going on. Another change on that, Brian, course inspection on Sunday. So what's your announcement on that?
Let me lead into that with just a little bit of information about that opening of the race registration for everyone. Our intent right now, because our race crew has done such a phenomenal job in the preseason, Todd Lester, Pete Howarth is doing our race flyers, Ben Harbor, race ops manager. We have most of the information we need for all of our venues. So our intent right now is on 1 February, we will post the draft race flyers on our website so everyone can look at the information about each particular race venue. Just like you said, that category wave, timings will be in draft. Once we close the registration the Monday prior, we'll know our final numbers. We'll update the race flyer and push that out as the final race flyer for that upcoming weekend. But yeah, part of the decision of opening registration at one time for all races is to get us the best sense of the numbers as early as possible. And we can start managing those wave and category sizes. And I wanted to mention that because it was my decision to remove the course inspection, or what we call the pre-ride, from Sunday morning. Because of our large numbers, we need that time on Sunday to appropriately run those waves and run those categories with either enough space between them or, Sean, as we've been discussing, maybe multiple fields in one category, just to keep everyone safe. And just this decision wasn't made just in a vacuum. Consulted with the coaches like we did on the last coaches call, Sean, had a conversation with the risk manager at NICA National about this, and I've communicated with a couple other league directors that run similar type of setups for their race weekend. So this seems to me the best, safest way to manage our big numbers. If we don't want to do race caps, we need to do this appropriately and have appropriate field sizes out on the race course. So yeah, again, we are not going to do course inspection or pre-ride on Sunday morning to give us enough time to manage these larger categories. Just like you said, right now, middle school boys and both freshmen and JV1 boys, they're about 100 each just registered riders right now. Those are huge fields, and we're just going to need a little more time to manage them appropriately.
Exactly. And that kind of brings us to, I think, a big coaching push that we've talked about before, but one that always bears reminding, and that is that it is really, really crucial that you practice starts and passing with your student athletes. Kind of the way to do the start drills, typically what I do with my team is we are in a field, we line up 5 wide, so almost bar to bar, very close. The start chute is 18 feet wide. So each student athlete has 3 feet plus a little bit. So start 5 wide, then line them up deep. Don't always start with your fast riders in front and your slow riders in back. Like mix them up. Like really set it up so that there's impediments at the start, and practice those starts. So full sprint, like do the countdown, riders ready, and then 10 seconds, 5 seconds, and then blow a whistle or whatever to get them to go, have them start, have them come back, line up again. So it's a great interval drill, as well as getting them to think about how they should be riding at the start. And the things that you want to be looking for as a coach, you want to make sure that everyone is keeping their heads up and their eyes forward. That's going to help riders stay straight as they are sprinting. If they start putting their heads down, they're going to tend to weave. If they're dropping their elbows in, they're going to tend to weave. And we want to maintain those straight lines. In road, we would always talk about holding your line. You want to hold your line and go straight at that start so that you're not going to interfere or interact with another student athlete. The other thing that you want to be doing is, line some coaches up in there and have them at the start, whenever you say go, have them not move, have them be the rider that like has some mechanical problem on the start line, and let your riders kind of react to that and talk about those situations. Like, what do you do if the rider in front of you stops or the rider in front of you doesn't go? Like, that's going to also help with those riders keeping their eyes up so they're not just head down plowing into the person in front of them. So really, really concentrate on doing some multiple practices of start. So, like make it a regular part of your practice, like maybe 1 day a week, but don't just do it once and then call it good. Like really drive this point home. And the other is to do passing drills. This is really great out on the trail. Like take sections of trail and go, okay, I want everyone, like line them up and then say every other rider is going to pass the rider in front of them, and really work on that passing etiquette. Like, how do you pass? Call your pass, like introduce yourself, like rider behind, need to pass. The rider in front says, pass on my right, pass on my left. And then the rider behind goes, okay, passes, making sure that they say, like, have a great race, thanks, whatever, some acknowledgement, and then goes on. And that's really, really crucial to those safe passing events. And as risk management from our standpoint at the league level, like we do a lot of analysis of the race field sizes and things with those passing events and the category interactions. So like in the middle school boys field, we're looking at, how many 6th graders pass 7B riders, how many 7B riders pass 8B riders. Like those intra-category passing events are really, really crucial to what we look at for kind of making the ride safe and the race safe. So as much as you can do to sort of practice passing, practice being a good passer, but also being good at being passed. Like, how is it that you pass? And remember that the rider who is being passed does not have to give up the best section of the trail. They can ride the good line and open up the bad line so that the passing rider can pass on the bad line, but they just need to acknowledge. And remember that the rider who wants to pass, like being nice is the best way to pass somebody. I am in my own racing, like the person who came up behind me and yelled at me about getting out of the way was not getting the best reaction from me as far as letting them pass. Whereas the person who came up behind me, and I would have like really high level riders come up behind me and they're like, hey man, as soon as you get a chance, if I can pass, that'd be great. Move right over and let them go. So, that niceness definitely goes a long way. It makes for a much better interaction between those two riders, and something that I really want to get all of our riders to really focus on. It's just a race. We're just here to have fun, and that's the thing that we want to focus on. Everybody having a fun time. Anything either of you want to add, Brian or Shell?
Respect is right in the student athlete code of conduct, Sean. So we just should apply that whatever the situation is. And you did a very good job of describing how to apply that respect to other riders during passing. Great job.
I've been doing this a little while.
I think one of the things I've seen make probably the biggest difference in a rider that's lacking confidence out on the race course during a race, as a course marshal, was having experienced riders pass them in a way that is not making them feel even more inadequate. They're already struggling sometimes. Sometimes they're doing the best they can just to make it around that course and finish. So when they have another rider come up behind them, they're feeling pretty stressed out already, and that's just adding to it. So making sure your experienced student athletes are aware that some of these kids are out there maybe for the first time, maybe this is their first season, maybe they've got some real anxiety about being passed. Like, you never know what that person is experiencing. And I noticed, like, my son, a lot of kids I know at first they would interpret a rider that's struggling as they're just not getting out of my way. And so in my experience as a course marshal, watching these kids interact on the course, I've seen far more experienced kids be super supportive and empowering of these kids when they're kind of overtaking them on the course. And you see what a difference that makes. Those kids that pass don't get to see it, but I, as a course marshal, have got to see that look on their face after they get passed, maybe by the leader of the group, or maybe 4 or 5 of them at one time. And when they just yell out, like, "You're doing a great job," like, they 9 times out of 10, those kids will yell something positive to the person that they're passing as they go by. And it just makes such a huge difference, because when they just kind of yell out the pass and blow by them, you can see they look really deflated and they're even more frustrated than they already were. So it makes such a huge difference, that sportsmanship, and it's really cool to watch. So
Exactly. And that was something that in, prior seasons, we've heard it on coaches' conversations, coaches' calls. And, within my own team, I would hear student athletes talking about people blocking the trail and they couldn't pass. And there was somebody like just taking up the whole trail. And the way I always approach that with my student athletes is that really is an intercategory passing event. That is a fast, lower category rider passing a slower prior category rider. So like it would be a fast 6th grader passing someone at the tail end of the 7B category. And so it is a mismatch of maybe experience, maybe fitness. And so it's not that that rider is intentionally blocking you. They are really doing the best that they can. They're doing all they can in that race. And it's something to recognize that that person, and as a teacher, like I recognize that teenagers, pre-adolescents, they are the center of their universe. They really do. Like everything happens to them. Everything is something that's intentionally being done to thwart them at some times, and helping them to unspool that and see that it's not intentional. There's no intent behind it. It's just an interaction and it's a mismatch, and getting them to appropriately kind of deal with that. But that respect issue is big, and that encouragement issue. And I think that's really important, Shell, like you said, like, and I've really tried to make it a habit for myself. Like anytime I pass anyone on the trail, whether I'm with my team or not, I'm like, hey, thanks, good job, like have a great ride. Like I'm saying something so that it's more than just a negative interaction of some guy came blowing by me. And it came out to me like earlier, or actually late last year, I was out riding my local trail, and it's only a 3.25 mile loop. And I passed the same guy 3 times, and he had not finished a lap. And I was like on my 3rd lap. And every time I was like, hey, thanks, good job, have fun. And the 3rd time he just was like, how are you passing me so many times? And I was like, well, it's a loop. And like I stopped and had a great talk with him. And it was just like one of those things that Like, had he not said anything, he didn't even realize that the trail was a loop. He was just like out riding a trail and didn't know how it functioned. And come to find out, he was from out of town. But it was just like one of those things. Like, by being courteous and being nice, he felt comfortable with asking me like things about the trail, and I had a great conversation. So, really instill that in your student athletes. Like, it's a great thing. Like, that's a great part of mountain biking, is getting to meet new people and getting to encourage them.
Sean, what we all just described, or what I've started referring to as the two C's we do here in this league. We build character and we build community. That's really what we're doing with our mountain bikes: character and community.
Absolutely. And that, I think, is really key. All right. Well, Shell, you are up early Sunday morning, espressoed up, and all here to tell us more about Teen Trail Core. So I'm going to turn things over to you.
Yes. Now I've had espresso. I will try not to say it really quickly. We've got a couple things planned for Teen Trail Core this season that I'm really excited about. One of those things will be we're going to make stickers for race plates. There's going to be various stickers for various different achievements, not all of them for Teen Trail Core. Some of them will be things like completing your first 5-mile ride, first 10-mile ride. But for Teen Trail Core, we'll have stickers for 10-hour increments of Teen Trail Core hours logged in the pit zone. And these are going to be stickers that student athletes can put on their race plates, so that when they're coming to races, maybe this is a student athlete that might not have the goal of being on podium, but they might really enjoy different aspects of mountain biking, and in the support of making our student athletes well-rounded mountain bikers, as Sean says. This is a way for them to show the accomplishments that they're making. So when they're out in our community at race weekends, everybody can see these cool things that they're doing as riders or contributing back to our trails. So we're gonna have those stickers for race plates. We will most likely have a form that coaches can submit whenever a student athlete reaches some of these achievements. So we'll have that out before race weekends and all the information you need to do that. We'll also be recognizing our student athletes at award ceremonies on race weekends for logging Teen Trail Core hours. So any student athlete that achieves 10 Teen Trail Core hours during this season will get a Teen Trail Core t-shirt that they will be awarded at our awards ceremonies, so that we can recognize more of our student athletes for different achievements. So that's something we've got going on. We're going to do awards at the end of the season, our final race at Mayodan, for individual student athletes, the top 5 Teen Trail Core hours logged for the season. Those student athletes will all be getting a medal. So we'll be calling them up to the podium and recognizing them for their awesome contributions back to our trails. We'll also be doing the top 5 teams for Teen Trail Core hours logged. I don't know exactly how we're going to work this yet, but in the spirit of being fair to all of our teams, we're probably going to figure out a percentage for the size of the team and the hours logged to make sure that our smaller teams still stand a chance. Because I have noticed in looking at these hours, we have some small teams that are really cranking out really impressive numbers of Teen Trail Core hours. So that's awesome. So we want to make sure it's fair, but we will be recognizing the top 5 teams and have an award for their team as well. So a couple smaller things that we're working on. One of them is working on revamping our NCICL website and the information for Teen Trail Core on there. It's not updated yet, but soon you will see there will be updated information. Hoping to have some contact information for various trail advocacy groups around the state to make it easier for teams and especially new families in our league to connect with those groups so that they can support their local trails. More information on the Teen Trail Core Captain's Badge syllabus. We've gotten some feedback that it can be a little overwhelming in the wording on National's website. So we're trying to kind of simplify that and make sure you have the links for the contacts to support your student athletes through that process. It's actually a very simple process. So a lot of it is things that they're already doing. So we can have more student athletes completing that process to obtain that Teen Trail Corps Captain's Badge. And the last one for this season would be we're actively recruiting Teen Trail Corps committee members. We're hoping to have a representative from every region of the state who has or is willing to establish some strong bonds with local trail advocacy groups so that they can help the teams in their surrounding area organize with those groups and interact in a way that's going to be positive for those groups and positive for our teams. For example, it might be overwhelming if 8 teams show up to a trail work day that's anticipating having 10 adults help. So someone that can help to facilitate that and make sure that we're helping in a way that's going to be a positive impact for that organization. And a neat idea we were talking about with Austin from Cognitive MTB the other day was maybe organizing some separate events where we can educate these student athletes on what's going on behind the scenes in these groups to make trails happen, to maintain them, to establish and improve relationships with the city, the county, whoever is in charge of those trails, and just make sure we've got strong advocates for trails starting right at 6th grade on up. If they're interested in that we've got an avenue to help them move forward and learn and grow. So we're working on that. So if we have any coaches who are interested in being a Teen Trail Corps committee member, please feel free to reach out to me or Barry, our Teen Trail Corps coordinator, because we'd love to hear from you. And something that's a goal for next season, but something to put on your radar. If you have a student athlete who's really into trail advocacy, we're working on a Teen Trail Corps ambassador program for next season. That won't look exactly like the Grit ambassador program, but kind of structured similar to that, to give student athletes who are really into that area of mountain biking an avenue for leadership and development. So hopefully that'll be something exciting for next season.
Awesome. That sounds great. There were a couple of things I was thinking of as you were talking, and the big one is the stickers on the number plates. That sounds so awesome. It reminds me of like merit badges for scouting, like a way of like displaying different achievements and that whole badge system. Like I know I've been riding the trainer and I have a trainer that's connected to Garmin, and Garmin like sends me an email like I earned some badge for like the length of time that I rode the trainer for, which, you know, it's like little recognitions that sort of like keep you coming back, and that kind of I think really adds another layer of just achievement for our student athletes that I think is going to be really good. So I like that idea a lot. I think that's really great.
It's actually an awesome idea because I stole it from our director of coach and team development. So don't tell him, but he had once mentioned an idea such as this, and I definitely stole it and ran with it because he has plenty of good ideas for his own area of expertise. So I snagged that one. But yes, I think it's really exciting to be able to recognize those student athletes, because there's so many ways. Like you had mentioned us building well-rounded mountain bikers last year, and that really stuck with me, that there's so many ways that we can help these student athletes develop strong mind, body, character, and that we need to recognize all the ways that they're doing that. And that's not just on the podium for races. So.
Absolutely. I think it's awesome. And I am excited to see how all of our programs grow, not just racing and not just Teen Trail Corps, but adventure. And I mean, Grit, the things that you've done with Grit have been amazing. So I'm just excited to see what you do with all the other programs that are now under your purview. I think it's going to be an awesome addition to the league for sure.
I'm excited. It's hard to not bite off more than I can chew, like right off the bat, but it's really amazing to see as we make plans and pull them off in the beginning. You're like, oh, I don't know how this is going to go, but we'll see. And even if it's a failure, we're going to have fun doing it.
It's going to be a fun failure.
Yeah. So I've yet to have an event that wasn't a lot of fun, but it's been really awesome to see coaches and parents step up this year. We've had a bunch of parents who were like, I don't ride, or I only ride a little, but I'm not confident riding with the group, but I want to help. Like, this is awesome and I want to be a part of it. So it's been so cool to be able to watch that unfold. And we have a lot of coaches. Some of them even play big roles on their team, like team directors, even a head coach, that are showing up at these events and helping in such big ways. And I think to them, they think it's just something small. But when you watch the impact that has to have so many people just showing up and helping pick up the slack, it makes such a huge difference, and it's making it so we can do so much more. And I'm excited to watch that happen in different areas of our league as well.
Absolutely. And I think, for me, like participating in Grit, like that this year, like I got to see kind of the vibe and the energy and, being able to take a backseat, like I'm not the one in charge. I'm not the one that's responsible. Like, one, refreshing, like it's not on me that this is a success or failure, but two, like being able to take a really secondary role and like sweep a group, which is something that, I don't often get a chance to do. And so just sweeping and being behind student athletes and watching them interact with each other and listening to them interact with each other was just a window in things that I don't often get. And it was such a great experience and something that I really enjoyed. And I think that's a part of like participating in these things, is being able to take a role that's different from what you normally fulfill on your team and kind of see it from a different angle and really see the impact that we have. And that as well, it kind of reminds me of one of the talks that we were at with the national summit. And something that really stuck with me was this idea that we're recruiting families. We're not recruiting student athletes. We're not recruiting a child, because if we go for the child, like if they're new to mountain biking, it's going to be very difficult for their whole family to kind of give up what they normally do for this one activity for the student athlete that wants to do it. But if we recruit the family and pull the family in, then what we're doing is we're not just creating one mountain biker, we're actually creating a family of mountain bikers. And I've seen that on my own team. And where, one kid is interested in mountain biking, and then the other kid gets interested, and then the parents get interested, and then next thing you know, like everybody's showing up with a bike and everybody's talking about like, yeah, this is what we do now. And I think that's really important. And that goes back to that idea of community. Like we really have a unique opportunity in building community that way, because we are really open, and it doesn't matter that you've never mountain biked before. It doesn't matter that you only casually ride. Like we bring you in and we make you a part of it, and we all grow better because of it. And I think that's another aspect that your programs are going to have coming into this.
Yeah, I think one of my favorite things that I've gotten to say a lot is that in Grit, my very favorite aspect of Grit is being able to put someone else in the leadership role. Because in making all these plans, I know what we're doing. I know what's going on. I could lead all of it if we needed me to, but I try really hard to always put someone else at the head of things, to give them the opportunity to lead and grow as leaders, but also to have all those people supporting them and showing them like, you can absolutely do this, and watch it be awesome. And that's such a cool aspect of Grit, and something I hope to make a really cool aspect of Team Trail Core and adventure, because not everybody is performance oriented, not even our coaches. And some are, and that's awesome. But some of them might really know a lot and really be passionate about trail work or just getting out and riding for fun. So it's exciting to me to give those coaches an opportunity to lead in an area that really, that's their jam. Like that's what they're all about, so that they have an opportunity to really shine and be leaders. So I'm really excited for that.
Awesome.
So did I hear hashtag more families on bikes? Is that where we're headed?
Yes,
league.
more
Yeah.
more families on bikes for sure. I think that that is our unofficial our unofficial objective, really realistically, because it has a profound effect. Like we get, if we get that student athlete and we get their family involved, then we've got that student athlete for a long time. And I've seen that with student athletes that come to my team that are really interested, and then it's it's almost a burden for the family to accommodate bringing them to practices and bringing them on rides. Like, they get dropped off and the family is like, well, we've got to go run these other things and then we'll be back. And so it's sort of like an add-on, and it's really hard for them to kind of incorporate that. And you see that that student athletes enthusiasm, but you just see that pull back to the family, that these kids, they have to do what they have to do what their family does. So, like if they're coming to practice, it's because their family's bringing them. It's they don't have a lot of control in their lives, and so it's important that the family become involved, because then everybody's involved.
Yeah, absolutely. And Shell makes some very important points. And Shell, thank you. Thank Barry for, everything you've done to get this program up and running. But yeah, if anyone's interested in helping out with Team Trail Corps, reach out. There is a place for you on the committee or somewhere. And I just wanted to provide a couple contextuals of Team Trail Corps. 2023 is North Carolina Year of the Trail. We already have a swell of focus on trail systems here in North Carolina, and we're just going to, I think, catch that wave with our program. And just like Shell mentioned, I know so many of our teams are working with local organizations to help sustain these trails. I had a conversation with the executive director of Sorba last week, who's very excited about what we're doing with Team Trail Corps. We'll get us linked in with some of our local Sorba chapters. And again, I know probably a lot of our teams are already linked in with those. But as an example, Cape Fear Sorba out here in the East, they really put a ton of work into Browns Creek. That's our first race venue. We need to be very appreciative of all that great work they're doing there. And I think there's just a relationship to be had. And when we talk about building lifelong mountain bikers, establishing a relationship with these organizations, where do our kids go after NICA? Well, maybe it's a local club. Maybe it's a local organization that's still focused on mountain bikes. So as much as we can do to establish some relationships with these other parts of the community, I think is fantastic. And then, yeah, I'll give one other shout out to Cognitive MTB. They are specifically sponsoring our Team Trail Corps program for this season. We're very appreciative of their support for sure. So, Shell, you and Barry, thanks for everything you're doing here with Team Trail Corps.
And I think, Brian, that is kind of a good segue into some things that you wanted to talk about, another league sponsor that's returning.
Yeah, absolutely. This is so much about community, and community is based on relationships. And so a couple of weeks ago, I had a conversation with Andy Guptill, who is the owner of Cutaway Bike Camp. Cutaway Bike Camp has been supporting this league for the past several seasons. And this all formed from a relationship. Mike Long's daughter attended one of Cutaway's mountain bike camps many years ago and established a relationship. And so Cutaway Bike Camp, they're based out of Charlottesville, Virginia. So a little bit of travel involved to get there. Their camps in the summer, but they offer a whole host of travel camps, day camps, enduro camps. Sean, you and I talk a lot about our student athletes really interested in the enduro/downhill venue. So yeah, registration is open. If you go to cutawaybikecamp.com, registration for those camps in the summer is open. They sponsor our league with our results area. You will see the Cutaway Bike Camp tent over our results board. That's what they're supporting our league with. And so just a good opportunity as we think about summer plans for parents, just like you mentioned, our kids are going where their parents are going. So yeah, check out their website, check out their camps. Lots of good opportunities for some of your summer plans for the summer.
All right. Well, I this is the time when we normally are going to kind of close out with dad jokes and all that kind of stuff. And I gotta be honest. I was gonna tell you guys a joke about time traveling, but you didn't like it. So I'm just gonna go with that. So I'm gonna leave it up to you.
Look at you going right into it. Fantastic. Shell, would you like to take the lead here on the
Sure.
first dad joke?
I was gonna steal or borrow one of Brian's because I was unprepared, but I thought I'd tell you all that how much I've always hated elevators. So I've been taking steps to avoid them.
Oh, that nice. How did you know, Shell? I had an elevator dad joke.
Oh, do you really?
Yeah. So why are elevator jokes so funny? Shell, Sean, elevator jokes, why are they so fun?
I'm at a loss on
Next
this one.
level.
Ah, they work on so many levels. Very good job. Yes.
So I saw there's a meme going around, and it's a picture of a man riding an escalator, and it says winter training for e-mountain bikers. So yeah. Another escalator joke. Well, I guess we will talk soon on the coaches call, but thanks for joining me, and as always, it was a pleasure taping the podcast with you all.
Yeah. Happy New Year, everybody.
Happy New Year.
Happy New Year.